Morning, Steve Ray in Chicago with the morning grain comments. Well, happy Wednesday. It's warm and dry here in Chicago, and the big question is, are we actually in a weather market, or is just some fake news? As far as the weather is concerned, at the conference that I've been in the last couple of days, the weather guy had an interesting take on things. He said because of climate change and global weather warming conditions, if you want to call it warming, but mostly extreme weather conditions, some of the models and oscillators that they have used in the past to forecast long-range U.S. weather no longer are reliable. And so he's tending to look at just one variable, and that's the temperatures of water from Hawaii to California. If they're warm, we have a good Midwest weather. If they're cold, we have bad Midwest weather. There are other meteorologists that are kind of moving towards that and look at that. And because the temperatures are warm, he called for a normal U.S. Midwest. Now, if you talk to farmers across the driest areas of the Midwest, they would probably differ with that outlook. But we still have plenty of time to bring rains across the Midwest and help the overall conditions. And for most of the corn, this is a good weather pattern. There is some replanted corn across the southern Midwest right now that's having very hard, crusty soils, and they could use a rain to try to break those things out. The only problem with his forecast is that he doesn't really see a lot of rain for the northern plains. It's a little bit of a concern. As the jet stream moves north, you would think they would get rain, but he's not forecasting a lot of rain for the northern plains. As far as globally, he thinks that there may be some dryness in Eastern Europe and Russia. There may be some dryness in the northern China plains, and there may be some dryness in Australia, but outside those areas, he looks for like a normal India monsoon and normal conditions in Southeast Asia. So all those kind of put in a basket will give us some things to think about, but will the funds actually cover their shorts? We're at 380 on the July corn, and do we push through that into farmers selling? There's probably a level in the corn market on the weekly chart that around 387, that if we push through that, if I'm a fund manager, I begin to cover my shorts. Over in the beans, we're struggling to get off the floor after the funds sold it, the market down 80 cents on the big South American crop and talk of slower Chinese demand, and that U.S. farmers are going to add acres. Now we've got a pretty good line in the sand around 940. We really don't need to trade over that level unless there's an actual U.S. weather problem. But we found support a little bit above $9, and we don't really need to trade below $9 unless we see a big U.S. crop. And for the wheat market the funds are short. Spring wheat will probably lead the rally, dragging hard wheat and soft wheat with it. It was interesting at the conference for the hard red winter wheat, it looked like we're going to have a lower than normal protein crop. So that offers even that much more demand for spring wheat to try to blend domestically to get the right protein for your mix. So that's the weather market, and we just have to kind of see whether it's going to last 2 days, 2 weeks, or 2 months. For the end users, everyone's saying the same thing: get coverage. Extend coverage for the rest of 17, just in case. For the farmer, it's almost kind of, let's see, wait and see what happens. You don't want to oversold a dry condition, but you do want to try to make as much money as you can this year on the upside. As far as trading goes, option volatility, they're putting some volatility back into the corn market, but you still have some calls you can buy above the market in case we do have a weather problem. And as far as the wheat market is concerned, you can probably see people starting to buy futures just to see if the funds liquidate their positions. If you're short 100,000 Chicago wheat contracts, it's going to be more than a nickel to get out of that particular market. U.S. dollar's a little bit higher. Seems like geopolitical issues around the world are more than what we're seeing here. And we'll also be watching testimony of the ex-FBI director tomorrow to see if that has any impact on the marketplace. We do have a crop report on Friday. There's not much changes expected in U.S. or world supply and demand. And on June 30th, we have an acreage report, and we're trying to figure out what they're going to do with acres. Most people looking for a little bit fewer corn and wheat acres, spring wheat acres, and a little bit more bean acres. As always, these are my thoughts and not those of ADM or ADM Investor Services, and have a safe and profitable trading day.